Salutations, this is Dave Degenerate. Before I get started, I'm going to do a little thing where I kind of explain a bit about what this video is going to be about, because I think this needs a little bit of an introduction. See, I'm one of those people who makes music on my own in a bedroom on a laptop, and I know I'm not alone. There's a lot of other people that do that, and basically I've always found there's certain little things you can do because you have to cut corners when you don't have a studio or a full band. Now obviously I'm not talking about things like Easy Drummer, Superior Drummer, Positive Grid Bias. I don't personally use those things because I think that Superior Drummer sounds like a little toy drum set, like the little ones you play with your fingers, and I really don't understand why anyone uses something like that. I mean, you might as well... It's a sample of a guy getting punched in the face. That's what the snare is on Superior Drummer. Anyway, Positive Grid Bias I don't have any real major issue with for what it is. I mean, it's something that's there for people who basically don't have means to record full guitars. I do actually have my own amplifiers though, so I choose to use those instead, whatever. Anyway, one thing that I do have to do is to cut corners with bass, because I don't actually have a bass guitar, and I don't really have means to record a bass right now. So what I tend to do is I will basically do what I'm about to show you in this video. You can tell I'm a little bit sleep deprived. So I'll get started on it. This is just a thing you can do if you're a guitarist and you want to make a full recording on your own. You've got your guitar set up, you've got your drums programmed or whatever, and you need to get your bass down. This is a good alternative to do it with, even if it's not necessarily as good as the real thing. But it's an alternative and it will work. And I'll show you guys what I do, and I will stop rambling and shut right up. Whatever. Okay, so the first thing you've got to do is you've got to pick your guitar. If you only have one or two guitars, then that's going to be really easy for you. But if, like me, you've got a few, not that I'm boasting, but I do have a few, then you need to kind of pick the ones that are going to have the right tonal properties for what you're going to do. So for this, I'm going to be using my Ibanez Art 120. This is the maple top mahogany body, so it has got a lot of low end, but the maple top gives it a balanced tone. It also has active pickups, which will bring some of the output in, which is what is actually really good for doing bass stuff, because the lower frequencies of the bass will actually require some slight boosting going out of it, so the actives are good for that. So this is what I'll be doing it with, and we'll move on to stage 2. Okay, so next up I'm going to record this DI. I'm not actually going to be using any real amplifiers or anything like that. I always do that with guitars, but with bass you don't really need to, because bass kind of fills a certain job rather than a certain sound. Bass is really there to thicken out the sound of the other instruments and act as a kind of metronome. So we're just going to be using a software rig. I don't actually have Positive Grid Bias at this point, but we're going to be using something similar to it, and we're going to be setting that up with the frequencies after we've done our digital modeling, which will also sound cleaner if we can just go DI without any kind of amp or pedals in the way. So just plug it straight in and get ready to record. So now when you're actually playing, you have to think like a bassist. Now when I say that, I mean think like a bassist, someone who actually wanted to learn bass, not as a failed guitarist who thought it was too hard and picked up a bass as a good way to be in a band alternatively. What I mean by this, basically, you've got to remember that with the bass, because it's a low frequency, chords don't really sound good, neither does palm muting, so bassists tend not to do that. They do, however, use a lot of arpeggios and little phrases like that, and wandering broken chords that can move throughout it. So try to use single notes and try to keep it interesting, unless the song is really simple, in which case sometimes simplicity is key. But try something a little bit different, a little bit more unique. Don't just try and follow the guitar, and I'll stop rambling. So with the bass track down, all you really have to do at this point is to export that mix down as a track. Then it's really rather straightforward. Just go into your DAW of choice and pitch shift it down by a full octave. This will of course give it a lower frequency, but now you have to run it through a bass cab sim, dialing back sub onto treb. In doing so, also add a little bit of compression, which will compress some of the higher ends and lower ends, and try to basically set it up as you would with an actual bass. So this is kind of typical stuff you'd use for it. By this point you should be more or less good to go. Just add that into your mix and have a listen once you've actually let your ears be the judge to see if it sounds as good as you want it to.